Have you ever walked into a room and felt an unshakable sense that something was off? As if an unseen weight pressed against the atmosphere, draining the energy from the space? It's a subtle, almost imperceptible feeling, an unease that gnaws at the edges of your awareness. You can't quite explain it, yet deep down, you know. Evil doesn't always come announced. It rarely arrives with a sinister grin or a villain's mask. More often it wears the face of kindness, coaxes itself in charm, and presents itself as helpful, even generous. At first glance, these people appear harmless, even admirable, but behind the mask, beneath the polished words and warm smiles, lurks something far more dangerous. These individuals don't need a reason to cause harm. They do it because it is in their nature. They manipulate, deceive, and exert control, not through brute force, but through a slow and deliberate erosion of your confidence, your peace, and even your perception of reality. The harm they inflict isn't always obvious. It's insidious, creeping in through the cracks of trust, until one day you wake up to find yourself trapped in a web of confusion and self-doubt. In Stoicism, we are taught to guard our minds and spirits, to discern between what is within our control and what is not. One of the most vital skills in life is learning to recognize those who mean us harm before they get too close, because by the time their true nature is undeniable, the damage is often already done. But here's the good news: evil always leaves clues. It is never truly invisible. There are patterns, warning signs, red flags, that if you pay close attention will reveal the truth about a person's character. The key is learning to identify these signs before it's too late. Understanding them isn't just about avoiding pain, it's about preserving your strength, your peace, and ultimately, your sense of self. In this video, I'll guide you through 6 powerful psychological red flags that expose the toxic, manipulative individuals lurking in your life. Learn these signs, and you won't just protect yourself, you'll reclaim your power. Before we dive in, if you're committed to safeguarding your mind and elevating your mindset, consider subscribing. Now, let's get started. Red flag 1. Love for conflict. A sure sign that you are dealing with someone whose intentions are far from virtuous is their unrelenting devotion to conflict. While most people naturally seek harmony, preferring to address disputes with kindness, or at least maintain a respectful distance from unnecessary turmoil, these individuals operate differently. They seem magnetically drawn to discord, much like a moth spiraling toward a flame, thriving in chaos and stirring unrest wherever they go. To them, conflict is not an unfortunate byproduct of misunderstanding, it is the goal. They do not just participate in drama, they orchestrate it, planting the seeds of disharmony with calculated precision. Their actions may seem subtle at first, a well-placed comment here, a slight exaggeration there, but their aim is always the same: to create division, tension, and uncertainty. In Stoic philosophy, we are taught that external events, including conflict, are often beyond our immediate control. However, our response, our inner discipline and tranquility, remains entirely within our power. Yet these individuals seek to dismantle precisely that sense of inner stability. They feed on drama, delight in rising tensions, and seem to derive satisfaction from watching relationships fracture. Sometimes they require no real motive to create chaos. Causing disruption is reason enough. The emotional turmoil that follows, the arguments, the lingering resentment, these are their trophies, evidence of their twisted craftsmanship. Consider the ways they operate. They plant tiny doubts in your mind about the people around you, stir up old resentments, or whisper half-truths into the ears of mutual friends, subtly fueling jealousy and suspicion. They may claim innocence, pretending they have no part in the growing discord, but in reality, they are the architects of the strife. Watch how they behave in social settings. They will say something seemingly harmless, yet calculated to provoke a reaction. a casual remark that ignites tension between two people, a suggestive glance, a knowing smirk, or a conveniently timed revelation designed to cast doubt and suspicion. And as emotions flare and conflicts arise, pay attention to their expression. You may notice it, a flicker of satisfaction, a glint of amusement, as if they are savoring the disorder they have created. Imagine a family gathering. Laughter fills the room, conversations flow naturally, and for a while there is nothing but warmth and camaraderie. Then they speak. A precisely timed comment, a subtle provocation aimed at exposing an old wound. Within moments, the atmosphere shifts. Where there was laughter, now there is silence. Where there was ease, now there is tension. And as the family members begin to argue, the instigator quietly retreats, observing from the background like a spectator at a tragic play. This is not accidental, it is deliberate. A Stoic mindset teaches us that while we cannot control the storms that others unleash, we can safeguard our own peace. Yet, it is vital to recognize that this kind of person does more than just stir the pot. They revel in the heartbreak, the tension, the fractured relationships. While most of us would feel unsettled or even remorseful after causing unnecessary conflict, they experience something different: pleasure. And if confronted, they rarely take responsibility. Instead, they will feign ignorance, insisting that they were just speaking the truth or that others are overreacting. They might even position themselves as the victim, claiming that they are being unfairly targeted, when in reality they have been the invisible hand orchestrating the chaos from the start. The most alarming aspect of these individuals is their utter lack of empathy. They have no real interest in resolving conflict, no genuine desire to mend relationships. They do not see the value in harmony or human connection. Instead, they thrive on the energy that conflict provides, feeding off the emotional turmoil of others like a parasite drawing sustenance from its host. For them, stirring trouble is not just entertainment, it is power. Power over emotions, power over perception, power over the relationships of those around them. And what does Stoic wisdom tell us? It reminds us to guard our peace fiercely, to choose carefully what influences we allow into our inner world. If you sense that someone in your life is perpetually steering conversations toward confrontation, manipulating situations to pit people against each other, or displaying a suspiciously gleeful attitude whenever tensions run high, take heed. This is not a coincidence, it is a warning. You deserve to be surrounded by people who value peace, respect, and empathy, not those who revel in discord simply for the thrill of watching others suffer. Protect the sanctity of your mental well-being by taking a step back, setting firm boundaries, and refusing to engage in their manufactured drama. Life is too precious to waste on those who see relationships as nothing more than a stage for ceaseless conflict. As the Stoics advised, we must remain vigilant, mindful of the influences we permit into our circle, and unafraid to walk away when necessary. Because some battles are simply not worth fighting, especially when the war was never yours to begin with. Red flag 2. Constant lying and manipulation. Truth is the foundation upon which all trust is built. Without it, relationships crumble, and communication becomes nothing more than a game of deception. For most people, honesty is a guiding principle, an expectation, even when inconvenient. But for a manipulative person, truth is irrelevant. Not only do they have no regard for it, but they actively choose deception, not because they need to, but because they want to. For them, lying is not just a means to an end, it is a way of life. They weave falsehoods into the fabric of every interaction, not merely to escape accountability, but to manipulate, control, and keep you in a constant state of uncertainty. They do not just lie to avoid trouble, they lie to test boundaries, to see how much they can get away with, and to slowly erode your confidence in your own perception of reality. At first, their lies may seem small, insignificant, a minor exaggeration here, a slight distortion there, harmless even. But as time goes on, a pattern begins to emerge, one that is impossible to ignore. One day, they tell you something with unwavering certainty, only to deny it later as if it had never been said. And when you confront them, they don't just deny the truth, they turn the situation around on you. They act offended, as if you are the problem. They accuse you of misremembering, of overreacting, of being too sensitive, or even paranoid. Slowly the doubt creeps in. You start second-guessing yourself. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I am overthinking. Maybe I'm imagining things. That is the trap. A skilled liar doesn't just tell falsehoods, they rewrite reality itself. They gaslight, twisting events so masterfully that you begin to distrust your own memory, your own instincts. One moment you are certain of what happened. The next, you are lost in a fog of confusion, and that is exactly what they want. Because a confused mind is an easy mind to control. Think back to the moments when they could have told the truth but chose not to. Instances where honesty would have cost them nothing, yet they still preferred deception. Why? Because for them, lying isn't just a tool, it is an assertion of power. It is a game, a demonstration of their ability to manipulate reality to their advantage. They fabricate stories, twist words, and distort facts, not out of necessity, but for the sheer satisfaction of seeing how far they can push the boundaries of truth. And the most unsettling part? They feel no guilt. There is no hesitation, no remorse, only the cold, calculated determination to shape the narrative in their favor. A Stoic understands that clarity of mind is essential for a life of virtue. To see things as they are, without illusion or deception, is one of the highest pursuits of wisdom. And if someone in your life constantly manipulates the truth, they are not just dishonest, they are dangerous. Every interaction with them becomes a battlefield, a mental chess game in which you are left drained, exhausted, and unsure of what is real. And that is exactly what they want. But you do not have to play their game. If you recognize this pattern in someone around you, do not dismiss it as a mere bad habit or a minor character flaw. It is a red flag, one waving right in front of you. The longer you tolerate their deceit, the more power they gain over your thoughts, your emotions, and your very perception of reality. So, ask yourself, do you often find yourself questioning your own memory around them? Do you feel uneasy, as if something is always slightly off in your interactions? Do they make you doubt what you know to be true? If the answer is yes, it is time to step back. Protect your mind, trust your instincts, because an evil person will never hand you the truth. It is up to you to see it for yourself. Red flag 3. Making you feel like you're always at fault. A mind filled with doubt is a mind that can be controlled. Manipulative people understand this better than anyone, and that is why they use one of the most insidious tactics of all, gaslighting. They do not need chains or threats to gain power over you. Instead, they rely on something far more subtle and far more damaging, the slow, steady erosion of your confidence in your own thoughts, feelings, and memories. At first, it is nearly undetectable. You express frustration over something they did, and they tell you that you are overreacting. You recall an event differently than they do, and they insist that what you remember never happened. You bring up something hurtful they said, and they scoff at you, claiming that you are too sensitive or imagining things. Individually, these instances may seem small, easy to brush aside, but over time they add up. The pattern becomes clear. Little by little, you start to second-guess yourself. Did you really misunderstand? Were you being too emotional? Maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't them. Maybe it's you. That is precisely what they want you to believe. A person who truly cares about you will listen, even if they disagree with your perspective. They will value your thoughts and emotions, even when they do not align with their own. But a manipulative person is not interested in understanding you. Their goal is to dominate. They seek to destabilize you, to make you question your own perception of reality until, eventually, you rely on them to tell you what is true and what is not. The more you doubt yourself, the more power they gain. Imagine this. You find yourself in a disagreement with them, and you know you are right. You remember the conversation clearly, every word, every detail. But they insist with unwavering confidence that you are mistaken. They twist details, rewrite events, and paint you as the irrational one. Soon, you are no longer defending your point. You are defending your sanity. A Stoic seeks to trust reason, to see things as they are, and to remain steadfast in what they know to be true. But gaslighting is designed to pull you away from truth. It makes you distrust even your own judgment, weakening your grip on reality until you become dependent on external validation. Specifically, the validation of the person who is manipulating you. This is not an accident, it is a calculated form of control. Consider the impact. You start apologizing for things you did not do. You take responsibility for problems that are not yours to fix. You learn to suppress your instincts, your emotions, and even your memories, all to keep the peace. And the longer this continues, the harder it becomes to break free. You begin walking on eggshells, afraid to speak up, afraid to trust your own mind. And the worst part? The more they wear you down, the less you recognize what is happening. The manipulation is so gradual, so expertly executed, that by the time you realize you are trapped, you have already convinced yourself that you put yourself there. But you did. If someone constantly makes you feel like you are the problem, if they dismiss your emotions as invalid, if they rewrite reality to make themselves appear faultless while making you feel unstable, take it as a warning. This is not a misunderstanding. This is not a minor character flaw. This is manipulation at its most dangerous. A Stoic does not allow their mind to be ruled by falsehoods. They do not surrender control of their thoughts to another. They seek truth and clarity, even when it is difficult. So ask yourself, do you often feel like you have to justify your emotions, as if they are unreasonable? Do they frequently make you question whether your memories are accurate? Have you started feeling like no matter what happens, you will always be the one at fault? If the answer is yes, step back, reclaim your clarity, trust your perception. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. You do not need their permission to believe in your own reality. Because the moment you start seeking validation from someone who is dedicated to undermining you, you hand them control over your mind. And a Stoic never surrenders control of the one thing that truly belongs to them, their own reason. Red flag 4. Constant criticism without acknowledging success. There is a particular kind of poison that does not kill you outright, but weakens you over time. Constant, unrelenting criticism. It is not always blatant, not always delivered through direct insults or open attacks. No, it is far more subtle, far more insidious. It seeps into your mind in the form of small, carefully placed comments. A disapproving glance, a passive-aggressive remark, a backhanded compliment, always pointing out what you lack, never acknowledging what you achieve. To a manipulative person, your success is not something to celebrate, it is something to downplay, to dismiss, to belittle. No matter how hard you work, no matter how much effort you put in, it will never be enough for them. If you accomplish something, they will shift the goalpost. If you improve, they will find something else to criticize. And if you dare to feel proud of yourself, they will be there to remind you of everything you could have done better. Picture this. You have spent weeks working on a project, pushing yourself beyond your limits, striving for excellence. Finally, you accomplish what you set out to do. You feel a sense of pride, eager to share your achievement with someone you trust. But instead of celebrating with you, they offer a cold shrug. A dismissive, That's good, I guess, but it's not that impressive. Or worse, they compare your achievement to their own, making sure you know that they have done more, done better, and always will. This is not constructive criticism. This is deliberate erosion. A Stoic understands that external validation is fleeting, that true confidence comes from within. But even the strongest mind can be worn down by constant negativity. And that is exactly what these people are counting on. They do not want to see you grow, they want to see you doubt yourself. They want to plant a seed of insecurity so that over time you begin to believe their voice more than your own. And the most insidious part? While they minimize your achievements, they elevate their own. They boast about their successes, their skills, their superiority, always positioning themselves above you. It is not just about making you feel small, it is about making themselves feel powerful. They need you to believe that you are not good enough because it reinforces their own sense of importance. But here is the truth. Their words do not define you. The Stoics teach us to measure ourselves, not by the opinions of others, but by our own principles, our own growth, and our own efforts. If someone in your life is constantly criticizing you, yet never lifting you up, you must ask yourself, what do they gain from this? And more importantly, what are you losing by keeping them around? No one has the right to make you feel unworthy. Recognize the pattern, protect your mind, and never let someone else's bitterness become the measure of your worth. Step away from those who only seek to diminish you, because your growth is not theirs to control. Red flag 5. Lack of empathy. If there is one trait that separates the virtuous from the wicked, it is empathy. The ability to feel another's pain, to share in another's joy, to recognize the humanity in those around us. This is what binds people together. It is the foundation of trust, of meaningful relationships, of society itself. But not everyone possesses it. An evil person feels nothing, not for you, not for anyone. Their indifference is chilling. You could be suffering, breaking under the weight of grief, and they will stand there unmoved. If they acknowledge your pain at all, it will be with cold detachment. Well, life's unfair. Or worse, they will take that moment to make it about themselves, steering the conversation away as if your emotions are nothing more than an inconvenience. Imagine experiencing a deep personal loss, the death of a loved one, a devastating failure, a heartbreak that leaves you reeling. You turn to them, hoping for understanding, for even the smallest display of kindness. But instead of comfort, you receive nothing. A blank stare, a shrug, a dismissive comment like, "It happens to everyone." In that moment, their lack of humanity is impossible to ignore. The Stoics teach us to temper our emotions, to remain resilient in the face of adversity. But they never advocate for coldness. True strength does not mean a lack of empathy. It means choosing to act with wisdom and compassion. Evil people, however, mistake apathy for power. They see others not as fellow human beings but as tools, things to be used, discarded, or ignored when no longer useful. Their emotional emptiness creates a suffocating presence. When you are around them, you do not feel seen. You feel invisible. You do not feel understood. You feel alone. And that is exactly how they want you to feel. Because isolation makes you easier to control. If someone repeatedly dismisses your emotions, refuses to acknowledge your struggles, or treats your existence as insignificant, they are showing you exactly who they are. Believe them. A person without empathy is not simply emotionally distant or bad at expressing feelings. They are dangerous, because if they cannot care about your pain, they will have no hesitation in causing it. Recognize the warning. Protect your spirit, and never waste your time trying to find warmth in someone who has none to give. The absence of empathy is not just a flaw, it is a warning sign. Walk away before their emptiness drains you, too. Red flag 6. Playing the victim. Life is filled with hardships, and no one is immune to suffering. Challenges test us all, and a strong person meets them with resilience, accepting responsibility for their actions and choices. They face adversity with a mindset of growth, recognizing that while misfortunes may be unavoidable, how they respond to them is always within their control. But there are those who see things differently. For them, victimhood is not a temporary state, it is an identity. They do not endure hardship to overcome it, they cling to it, wielding it like both a shield and a weapon. To them, nothing is ever their fault. Their past, their circumstances, the actions of others, these are the forces to blame for everything that goes wrong in their lives. They refuse to take ownership of their choices, and when things fall apart, they point fingers instead of looking inward. And worst of all, they expect you to buy into their narrative. At first, it may seem like harmless self-pity, a person merely struggling to cope with difficulties. But as time goes on, a pattern emerges. Their problems never seem to improve, no matter how much help or support they receive. Their misfortunes always seem exaggerated, their suffering somehow worse than anyone else's. They drain those around them, using empathy as a leash to keep people tethered to their never-ending cycle of misery. But here is where the real danger lies. When you begin to see through their manipulation and start holding them accountable, they do not respond with gratitude or reflection. Instead, they turn the tables instantly. How could you do this to me? You're hurting me by even saying that. I can't believe you would treat me this way after everything I've been through. Suddenly, you are the villain. Your reasonable request becomes an attack. Your attempt to set a boundary becomes an act of cruelty. Their refusal to change becomes your responsibility, as if it is your job to fix them, your duty to accommodate their every emotional outburst. And so the cycle continues. This is not just emotional manipulation, it is control. A Stoic understands that external events are often beyond our power, but our response to them is something we do control. And a person who refuses to take responsibility for their own life is not just weak, they are dangerous. Because when someone never owns their actions, they will always find a way to place the burden on you. Think about it. Do you constantly find yourself making excuses for them? Do you feel guilty for setting even the most basic boundaries? Have you been pulled into their endless cycle of problems, only to realize they never truly want a solution, just more sympathy? If so, it is time to step back. You are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to help themselves. You are not obligated to stay in relationships built on guilt and emotional manipulation, and you do not have to sacrifice your own peace just because someone else refuses to take control of their own life. A person who clings to their victimhood at the expense of others is not just toxic, they are a threat to your well-being. Recognize the pattern, refuse to be controlled by their false narrative, and most importantly, walk away. I know that recognizing these red flags isn't always easy, especially when emotions are involved. When you care about someone, when you want to believe the best in them, it can be difficult to accept the truth. But understanding these signs isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about protecting your peace, your confidence, and your very sense of self. Evil people don't always come with a warning. They don't announce their intentions. They slip into your life unnoticed, slowly chipping away at your trust, your reality, and your inner strength. And by the time you realize what they've done, they have already left a trail of confusion, exhaustion, and self-doubt in their wake. But here's what you need to remember. You don't owe your energy to those who drain you. The moment you recognize these patterns, you have a choice. To step back, to protect yourself, to reclaim your power, even if it's difficult, even if it means walking away from someone you once trusted. Because at the end of the day, your peace is worth more than their presence. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever encountered someone like this? How did you handle it? Or are you still navigating that situation? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone who needs to hear it. And if you're on a journey of self-growth and self-protection, make sure to subscribe. There's so much more to explore about recognizing toxic people, building resilience, and mastering your mindset. Until next time, take care of your heart, guard your mind, and always trust your instincts.